Thank you. I'm here to talk to you today about traveling alone. And I know right now some of you are going, but wait, I'm not single, I'm married, I have this, I have a dog, I have a spouse, I have a partner, I have something. We're going to get to some of those reasons that I call excuses in a little bit. But first of all, how many of you have gone on a trip by yourself, not for business? Excellent, good. You guys can adjourn and probably have coffee because you're going to be aware of many of the things I'm going to talk to you about today anyway. Maybe I'll shed some light on some new stuff, share some new stuff. Are there any guests of members here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm assuming, wait. All right, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig for just a couple seconds. It won't hurt, but because I'm assuming you don't know everyone here, like the members, turn to someone you don't know and introduce yourself real quick. Please. Shake a hand, say hi.
Hello, Fred.
Hi,
So, you're all now perfectly qualified to travel on your own, if you haven't already. Some of you have. I saw you raise your hand the first question. If you can introduce yourself to a total stranger in a place I'm going to assume you've never been before, you can travel on your own. That's the whole lesson right there. If you can reach out, if you can break through that shell, and trust me, I had one. We'll get to my shell here in a little while. Then there's really no other excuse or reason that you can't. The first trip I ever took alone was in 2006, way before it was a seed for a thought, for a show, for a web series, for anything it became. I had a little extra time, a little extra money. I had the extra time because I was unemployed. You get those things, take advantage of them. But I decided to go to Italy for 3 weeks. Nobody could go with me. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, I don't know if I want anyone to go with me anyway. I was on a little bit of a soul-searching transition period in my life. I'm like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to go. So I did. I flew into Rome and out of Venice, a flight fare plan I'll talk to you about later on too, because it can save you a load of money if you're not already familiar with it. But the bottom line was I spent 3 weeks wandering from Rome to Venice through Tuscany, took my time. Some things were sublime, some things were wonderful, and some things were what you might imagine. I was lonely like I had never been before in my life, and I am a pretty solitary individual, so I thought that would be fine. I thought, great, I can be in a foreign environment, I don't speak the language, nobody will bug me, I can stick my head up my own backside and self-analyze for 3 weeks, this will be fantastic. And there were days where I was so lonely that I didn't really know what to do with myself because I didn't know how to travel on my own yet. So there are ways to do it, and there are ways you have to think about it when you're by yourself that you don't have to think about when you're with people. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later too. But the whys. Why? For me, the why was, as a tool for self-analysis, it comes second to very little else perhaps than therapy, but it's a lot less expensive. So, to get to know yourself, to self-analyze, and I know I'm talking to a room full of educated, intelligent people. You've probably done a good deal of this already, but for me the why became to understand who I was better, to understand my place in the world as a global citizen better. Now this did not dawn on me 3 weeks by myself in Italy. I was more worried about the date with the waiter I met in Rome. But slowly the evolution came about. And that for me is why. Because when you're with someone else, when I travel with other people, when you're in a group, when you're with a partner, a spouse, a kid, a family member, there's a bubble. It's safe. You can be in a foreign environment, but there's still a comfort zone. You know, you can be okay when you're totally uncomfortable that you don't speak the language, or you don't look the same way, or people look at you, or people, whatever they do. But that doesn't really do you any good when it comes to really connecting with, I'm assuming that's why you've gone to a culture that's completely different from your own. It insulates you, and I don't think that's a great thing. Now, I'm not saying don't ever travel with your partner, your spouse, your family member, your kids. Do that sometimes. But I am a firm believer at this point that everyone should take a trip by themselves at some point. And it doesn't have to be the other side of the world. You go to the next county, you come to LA, you go to Santa Barbara. It doesn't matter. It's just an exercise in growth. That's what it comes down to. Some of you, like I said, are not single. I get that. And it's hard to, well, perhaps, it's not hard for me. I have a partner. And I still travel months at a time by myself. So I was going to say, perhaps it's hard to leave that person behind. It doesn't have to be. It's very nice to come back to them. Several years ago, I had a conversation with a woman of a certain age, and I said, you know, I enjoy, the more I travel alone, the more I like to, the more I want to, because I get to do exactly what I want when I want. You never play the, what do you want to do today game? Which it's my favorite game. It's great. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I don't want to do that. But I said that to this lady, and she sighed, and I thought, oh, don't get mad at me. And she said, I'm so happy to hear you say that. For so many years, my husband and I have traveled independently of one another because they had different travel styles. She liked to take coach tours. She liked to smash as much into an itinerary as possible. She liked to see everything and do everything there was to do. And he liked to go slow. And he liked to sit in cafes and watch the world go by and do nothing but that for hours. So when they were younger and they traveled together, it created friction, and somebody was always miserable. So they had a talk, and you do have to have the talk. I don't recommend going, so I'm going to, you know, Kazakhstan in 2 weeks, see ya. Have a talk about it. If you travel together, great. But if you don't, it's okay. You know, have that conversation, because it is okay to go do something you want to do and not let someone hold you back simply because when you get there, you know you're going to do this the whole time. I'm fortunate that my partner and I do have similar travel styles. When we travel together, we do typically enjoy it. Although, because of my background now, I'm the one who does all the planning. I'm the one who does all logistics. I am the one who does the research. And you'd be like, hey, I'm here, let's go. That's why I like to cut and unload. But it works out. So that's not really an excuse. Well, I can't go because I'm not single. Excuses. There are many more, though. I don't have anyone to travel with. We're over it. Go on. Do it anyway. I'll be lonely. We will talk more about that because it really can be a killer. It really can be a killer, but it doesn't need to be. I can't afford it. We're going to go into that one a little bit more in detail in a little bit because that's, yeah, I can't afford it. It's not always as expensive as you might think. I've flown to different countries for airfare that was less than domestic flights in this country. It can be done. It can be done. You just have to do it at the right time and be smart about it. Language barriers. That's one of my favorite excuses. How many people have a smartphone in your purse, your pocket? There are thousands of language apps on your smartphone available through the app stores. Is it going to mean you can converse on a collegiate level about philosophy? No. Does it mean that if you're in a pinch, you can communicate? Yes. Digital technology now, there is no excuse for, I can't speak the language. Now always, and I always learn the basic phrases, please, thank you, and the magic phrase I'll get into in a second, I'm sorry, I don't speak. That has garnered me more goodwill than anything else I've ever said, no matter how bad I butcher it, and I'll tell you about how bad I butcher it in a second too. But if worst comes to worst, in a scenario where you've got a phone in your hand, you can pull up an app, pull up the phrase you need, hand your phone to someone, and they can read what you're trying to communicate. And with a lot of the apps, with the push of a button, a voice will tell you. It will read it. Your phone will talk to the person. Okay? And hopefully the person can navigate and talk to you back. Sometimes you just have to have that ear and figure it out. But I've never been in a situation where I just could not communicate when I needed to. When I needed to. When you want to, yeah, that can be frustrating. When you really want to get into something with somebody and you're doing it. Let me see what my phone says. Yeah, okay. So within that, do we always have reliable access to electricity to charge phones? No. I spent 2 months filming the second season last year in Southeast Asia. Power structure is iffy sometimes. So whatever you need, write it down. Put it on flashcards. If it's a different script, don't use Google Translate, but if it's a different alphabet and you need the phrases in that native language, I know most of you have a first or second language that is not English, then you have second or third or fourth languages. A good, reliable translation website, whatever you can Google and find that's not Google Translate, I hate that thing. Just print out what you need, so you always have something. You always have something. So at the very least, it's, you know, can I have directions to whatever? All right? And I also say this because when you walk in and you're alone, you walk into a cafe, a bar, a restaurant, you sit down, and you whip out your phone or your flashcards or whatever it is, and you just make the attempt to speak to whomever you need to speak to. It creates connections. You may not be able to communicate wonderfully, but it's created some of the most poignant moments of travel and some of the most deep connections I've had with people, because I'll guarantee you within a few minutes, unless the place is really busy, you're going to have a little crowd of waitresses or owners or servers or whomever looking at what you've got, helping you learn to pronounce it, telling you what it should be, telling you what you definitely shouldn't be saying. Right? It's one of the best ways to connect. And now if you were sitting there with someone you knew, would you be doing that? No. Somebody would be slinging food at you and you'd be in your little zone and you wouldn't be interacting with these people. So trust me, try to speak. Even if it's painful and you're timid and I don't know what I'm saying, just do it. They will have you. Same thing here. I mean, if one of us encounters someone who had just traveled from the other side of the world, but all they did was speak in their language slowly and loudly to us, like, this was my favorite language tutor from the second season from Southeast Asia. And I did not film her because I was actually taking lunch. But I sat down at a little roadside shack stall in Vung Vieng, Laos. She was the matriarch of the place. Her family ran it. And I whipped out my flashcards and tonal languages, you all understand tonal languages. Well, I don't, and I didn't. So we spent half an hour with her teaching me my numbers and basic phrases and how to pronounce them properly with the right tones. Very important. And we had a really nice half an hour. Do I know her life story? No. Do I know she's 87 and she had 6 or 7 kids and, you know, and she knows her numbers properly? Yeah. I had a great time. That is one of my favorite ways to connect with people. And that goes back to the just don't be lonely. Don't take your book and sit in a cafe and reach out. Yeah, it's miserable in the beginning, but once you're through that phase and you go out, it's, believe me, it's great. Don't take my word for it, do it yourselves, but believe me right now, it's wonderful. Now, within that, you're going to butcher some things. I ran around Laos for 3 days before I met an American who was an expat there, married to a Lao woman. He's bilingual, speaks Lao very well. And I had learned the phrase, I don't understand. I'm sorry I don't speak Laotian, I don't understand. I'm not going to say those things now because I don't remember what they are. A year ago. But essentially, he said, what did you say? I said, I don't understand. And he said, no, you can't say it that way. I said, why not? He said, you're not saying I, you're saying phallus. You're saying penis. He said, that's the polite word for penis. So I've been running around Lao by myself for 3 days, along the dog saying, penis don't understand. But to their credit, no one snickered, no one ridiculed me, no one was mean, no one even raised an eyebrow. And after I realized what I'd said, I was like, why did they not fall on the floor laughing? Now, when I left the room, did they? Maybe. I don't know. But that's what I was saying. So are you going to get it right all the time? No. Are people going to be gracious because you're trying? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they could probably understand that I was trying to say, I don't understand. I apologize. There was a lot of apologizing penises for those people. And it was my favorite. That was great.
Do the 2 words sound alike? Is that why you got it
Yes.
confused? Okay.
What is, if I say this properly now, we would know the word is koi, but koi is phallus and koi is I. My phone app did not tell me that. Or my interpretation of the tone was really wrong, but yeah, that's it. So, you know, Are the Romance languages a wee bit easier to learn some phrases in? Yeah, but don't let it stop you. I spoke to a young woman a few months ago, and she said, I don't think I travel anywhere by myself where there's language barrier. And this was 3 seconds after she had just told me that she just spent days in Indonesia with a buddy and done just fine. I'm pretty sure she didn't speak any Indonesian. I don't know if her friend spoke any Indonesian languages, dialects, but it's not an excuse. Not an excuse, not anymore. Not when you can muddle through and it actually helps you connect and interact with society. So the most visceral excuse, it's dangerous. It's not safe, oh my gosh. When I got back from Italy in 2006, most of the people I encountered, their response was something along the line of, oh my gosh, isn't it dangerous? Weren't you afraid? Isn't it scary? Did anything happen to you? Yeah, but none of it was bad. So interestingly though, most of those responses came from men. So I'd say more of the responses came from men than women, which I thought was interesting. I thought that was interesting. They say the surest way to make people glaze over in a PowerPoint is to put up charts and facts and figures, so it's not going to last long. But this is, and I know it's difficult to read from there, September 19th through the 25th, week before last. Crime statistics, I selected a few that are pertinent to travelers for San Diego Police Department. Yeah. This is not, bear in mind, all of the police departments within the metropolitan area. This is just San Diego. In that 7-day stretch, there were 60 assaults, 51 larcenies, theft, 7 sexual crimes, and 14 robberies. And robbery is something is being taken from you through coercion, force, or fear. So it's not meant to scare you out of never leaving your house again. It's just meant to illustrate safety is relative. And I know sometimes this is hard to swallow, and it's not always popular when I say it, but we live in one of the most dangerous societies we will ever visit. I'm going to say, I qualify that by assuming that nobody here is eager to traipse into Syria anytime soon, right? I'm not. So short of war zones, we live in one of the more dangerous countries that we will ever visit. Predominantly because we have lax gun enforcement and gun control laws, like it or not. That's how it is. Now, is every city, it's got good parts and bad parts. Are the ratios different depending on socioeconomic factors in different regions? Yes. Are there cities in other countries with higher crime rates than ours in San Diego? Sure, yeah. Does most of that crime touch travelers? Very, very little of it does. Where, I know, again, not maybe popular, probably more likely to be shot here than we are to have many other things happen to us in many other places. It stinks. But always remember that, take it with a grain of salt, because this is, if you take nothing else away from today, take this. Trust your intuition, not your imagination. Imaginations are great things, but when you travel, they can be the enemy. They're going to convince you that every single bad thing out there that can happen is going to happen, from food poisoning to murder. And in your worst nightmare, maybe you're murdered while you have food poisoning, and gosh, that's miserable. That would just be awful. So I'm glad you're laughing, because it's that absurd. Do you need to be careful and mindful and watchful? Yes. Do you need to imagine the worst shit possible is going to happen? Trust your intuition, because your intuition is instant, it's accurate, it's a conviction. It's not an, oh, I'm afraid it might happen. It's an, I know it's about to happen. And it can be good. The thing can be good, whatever the thing is. But it's a certainty. Right? It's not a, I don't know, I could. It's, you know. So trust that. We've all experienced it, whether you call it your gut or your instinct or your intuition or your sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. You can call it Granny Sarah if you want. But it's not your imagination. Those are different things, and you need to learn to rely on one and not the other. Imagination is great for when you're planning a trip. Don't imagine the bad stuff, imagine the good stuff. But when you get out there, trust your instincts and your intuition, because that will serve you more. If you wouldn't do it here, don't do it there. If you wouldn't do it there, don't do it here. If you catch yourself walking down the street in San Diego with your phone up your nose, not paying attention to anything, stop. Put your phone up. I don't know for any of us that anything is that important to make us ignore everything around us because it's on the screen. Right. Same thing. I think you understand where this is going. You're going to follow your common sense. It all falls under common sense. People ask me, viewers write in, they ask me about nuts and bolts, very practical things. Do I travel with portable locks that you can put on the inside of your hotel or guest room door? Didn't know such a thing existed until someone said it to me a couple weeks ago. No, I never have. Although I might have in the US a couple times if I'd known it existed. But I shot the first season heavily in Latin America. The second season was all in Southeast Asia. I have never felt threatened. I have never been threatened. I have never been in danger. Do I know people have? Yes. Do I know people who have? Yes. Not internationally. I know several women who have been attacked, not sexually, but tried. I've known people who have been carjacked. I have known people, and every time I have these conversations, I say, where did this happen? I live in LA. It all happened in LA. Now, can it happen other places? Sure. Does it as much as our media would lead us to believe? No, it doesn't. If it makes you feel better, and you haven't already, take some self-defense classes. I studied a mixed martial art, a self-defense-based mixed martial art for about 6 years. If you haven't already, do.
Oh, I was just going to say a plug. My brother's actually a martial artist, and he actually teaches.
Go to a brother. Yeah, everybody signed up. Because it does help. I walked in and someone said, you're so small and you travel alone. Yeah, it's true, but that's one of the reasons. I understand someone could probably, fairly easily, a male could pick me up and carry me away. Would I get hurt? Probably. Would he? Probably. It doesn't mean I'm Wonder Woman. It just means at this point I know I have it in my head enough that even if I'm panicked, I can try something. So if that makes you feel better, by all means, do it. Another viewer asked me if I ever carry weapons. No. And I'm not talking about guns because you can't carry those over international boundaries. Anyway, I don't, because for so many trips I cross through so many international boundaries and I country hop. I cover 5 or 6 countries at a time when I shoot the show. Pepper spray in one country may not get me in trouble. Pepper spray in another might, if it were found in luggage at international ports. Anecdotally, I heard once of 2 friends traveling in Europe. One got pickpocketed, one chased pickpocket, tackled pickpocket, started scuffling. One pepper sprayed pickpocket. Guess who was charged with assault because they had a weapon. I just don't mess with it. Right? It's always up to you, and if you're just going to one place and you feel a small pocket knife is in order, good, I guess. Be prepared, but do your homework. You know, you're going to have to search up where law and liability really lay. I don't mess with it. But I do always tell hotel staff, and if I visit the same cafes for coffee in the morning, people know where I'm going. They know what I'm doing. I stay in small places, so most of the time it comes up in conversation when you leave in the morning. What are you doing today? Tell them. Do I say, well, from noon to 1, I'm going to be at the thing. From 2 to 3:30, I'm going to be at the museum. No, because it's fluid, it changes. But I do leave a trail of breadcrumbs. I'm planning this today. I'm planning that today. So they know. So at least if someone needs to go the right direction, it's there. I listen to, and this goes back to prep, I listen to locals. When they tell me to do or not to do something, I don't listen to my American friends who have never been to that place. I'll say, I'm going to go to, I don't know, Argentina. Oh, I hear Buenos Aires has a high crime rate, this and that. Yeah, it can. It does. If I say, oh, you've been there, and they say, no, I just heard about it. Quit, I just stop listening. On the other hand, if I get to a place, or if I happen to know someone who has been there or lived there before in the country, yeah, I quiz them about it. You ask, you prepare for it. Right? So South Africa, Durban, I filmed an episode for the first season. I got to Durban. I stayed for a few nights in the city center in Durban, which during the day, no problem. At night, it can get sketchy. I had an event just across the city center. I went to the event, and several people said, how are you getting back to your hotel? And before I could answer, say, how are you getting back to your hotel? Don't walk. And someone looked at me, and one woman said, don't you dare walk. Good, because I was going to walk. I was totally going to walk. $1,000 worth of camera gear in my backpack on my back. I was gonna hike back across the city center. Just listen to people. And if 2 or 3 people say it, Belize was the same. I filmed Belize for the first episode of the first season. Said, oh, we all take cars at night. We take cabs. Locals take cabs. Don't wander around in the city at night. During the day, no problem. But listen. Now, when your American friends go, I heard the murder rate in Belize is sky high. I don't care what you heard. I want to know what you've experienced if you've been there, if you've had the experience. So listen to locals and reliable information. Ignore the fear you get out of people here because they're watching too much cable news. Into the larger picture, I told you I leave that trail of breadcrumbs. I also register with the State Department. I'm going to share that link and some other things in a little bit, or some resources, because the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program administered by the State Department here is good. It's a worst case scenario, the U.S. has to evacuate all its citizens program. It just means when you're in a country, the State Department knows it. You can add as much little detail as possible. I'll give you the address here in a little bit. I definitely do that, and that's one of the few things that I'll acquiesce to as far as Uncle Sam keeping up with me. Other practicalities than safety, cost. I told you before I flew into Rome and out of Venice. If you haven't done it before, it's called an open-jawed flight. Open jaw, and it's one of the best tools you've got traveling. It really is. You fly into one city, you fly out of another. It's almost always less expensive, sometimes much less expensive, and you get to travel over land or over water between the 2 destinations. So you see more. It's lovely. My mother lives in Dallas-Fort Worth. I often cannot find airfare for under $400 from LA to, especially during high season, to go back 3-hour flight in this country to visit family. But when I filmed the first season, I flew from LA into southern Mexico and from Puerto Rico back to LA for $350. And I did catch some regional and commute hops between countries within that. So the overall ticket price was much, much lower than if I had booked round trips, or than if I had tried to one-way it the whole way. Okay, it can cost much, much less. I flew from, second season, from LA to Manila, Philippines, Bangkok, back to LA, $820. Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it, because again, when I country hopped within the region, I just took smaller airlines. Nothing costs really more than $100 for a flight. So that's one of my absolute favorite money-saving things. So money is not quite the excuse it used to be. Round the world flights. In 2008, again, I started this thing as a web series, so I bought a round the world flight. And people think, round the world, oh my God, $10,000. There is, and I will write this down, I should say, several companies who deal in round the world airfare. You can either get an itinerary that's pre-planned, or you can do it as you go. I customized mine. I went around the world 2 months, 7 countries. I hopped along the way. Cost about $4,500. It's not as expensive as most people would assume. And their preset itineraries are much, much less. Airtreks.com is the incarnation now of that company I used. And they're excellent. So the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, STEP, that first program I did, you can put in anything you want down to exactly which hotel or guest house or someone's home you're staying at, wherever you are. I tend to just make it loose. Like, I'll be in this city for this day, I'll be in that city for that day. So I tend to book accommodation as I go. That's good. State.gov, you're probably familiar with. Visas, where you need them, where you don't, where you have to pay a fee, you don't need a visa, where you need the visa, you don't have to pay the fee. It's all there. Don't get caught up, again, with too many, in my opinion. It's all up to you and your level of tolerance for risk. Don't get caught up on the State Department's website with the travel warnings. There are travel warnings for some of the more innocuous places I've ever been. Take them with a big grain of salt. If you know people who have been recently, talk to them, do that kind of thing. But I never let a travel warning stop me from going to a country. If I had, I wouldn't have gone to I've been like 3. Not the 19 or 20 I've filmed for this series, and the 20 or 24 I've been through. It's very reactionary, and it hinges largely on geopolitical issues that, again, largely don't touch travelers. Too many adapters, I like, it's tech. It's all tech for travel. What gadget you need, what will work, what won't work, it's one of my favorite resources because I'm not, it's like 4 of us up here trying to get this thing to talk to that thing. I'm not that technical, believe it or not. That's one of my absolute favorites. Travel insurance. A viewer wanted to know the other day, do I use it, do I take it, do I ever? I have used it once because the NGO I was volunteering with required it to be on their construction sites. That's it. I've never used it before or since. Always up to you. World Nomads offers very good policies, very economic. Will get you care that you need if you need it. MedJet Assist. Policies with every bell and whistle imaginable, including jet airfare direct from wherever you are back here in case of medical emergency. Take your pick, use, again, up to you. I don't know. I was raised without any health insurance at all, so but I've been very fortunate. I know people who have been injured doing very active things out there, and it does stink. Keep in mind, though, many, many countries with healthcare systems will take care of travelers and foreigners as well, and it's not as scary as they all sound. Although my friends in Laos, who told me not to say penis anymore, did always have their children delivered in Thailand. So I hear if you're in Southeast Asia, you're injured and you can get over the Thai border, I hear that's a good place to be for healthcare. This last one connects several things. Resources connecting with people, saving money, and is my absolute favorite invention of the travel world in the 21st century, Couchsurfing.com. It's a website that's totally self-policing. It's a community of people that sign up and offer to host you in their homes for no money. It's not Airbnb. There is no money that's allowed to change hands. It exists in almost every city in the world. Almost every country has at least a few. Many cities have thousands of couch surfing buddies. It's a built-in community, and I have had some of the most sublime experiences I've ever had traveling because I used it, because I connected with like-minded people through there. I stayed with Durban, South Africa. I stayed with a couple of brothers. I wanted to do a story about the population of Indian descent in Durban. So I hopped on Couchsurfing. I found a couple of brothers my age who were willing to host me for a week. And to boot, I followed them around, documented their lives, and we made some TV, and it was great. But even if that hadn't been an option, it was fantastic. I saw Durban the way nobody else, unless you travel that way, sees Durban. I got out of the city center. I spent time in the suburbs with Gen Xers. The kids, the last generation to be born at apartheid, they had been raised completely without apartheid. I'm not saying there are no issues there still, there are, but these kids did not know what it was. So I got to talk to them, and then I got to talk to their aunts and uncles who knew what apartheid was. And it was one of the most formative experiences I've ever had. Same thing in Buenos Aires. I met a woman about my age, said, come stay with me. We had a great time. We tangoed, we did all kinds of things. It's wonderful. Now, I said this at a different talk, and a woman of a certain age said, oh, but that looks like it's for young people. I'm too old. I would never do that. I would never stay in someone else's home that I didn't know. That's okay. You don't have to. I say this knowing completely that I have a higher tolerance for risk than a lot of people. But the beautiful thing about something like Couchsurfing is that you don't have to stay with them. People register just to meet other people. So this is what I did for her. I hopped on and I searched up Munich. Anybody want to go to Munich, Germany? Sounds lovely, especially this time of year. There are 7 women between the ages of 45 and 60 willing to, if you'd like, host you in their homes, but if you don't want, they're available just to meet up, to have coffee, to have dinner, to go drinking, to go dancing, to go hiking, to do whatever. Their interests include travel, art, music, dance. I know all of you hate all of those things, right? So if you don't want to crash on someone's couch, and incidentally many people do have guest rooms, you don't have to sleep on a couch, although I have, it's available there. And that, if I had known, actually I don't think it existed in 2006, I needed to do my own couch surfing, so to speak, in Italy that first time. to combat the loneliness and the, what do I do with myself? I have no one to distract me issues. But now that I know about it, I use it every time I go out. Even if it's just to meet people. All those 7 women in Munich, they speak English. You don't have to hand them your phone. Sprechen Sie, no. So it's good. It's good. I can't even ask Couchsurfing to be a seasoned underwriter of the show for public television because I've talked about them in the episodes so much. It's my favorite thing ever. And with public television, you can't talk about your sponsors. You can't plug them, so I shouldn't have plugged them. I should have just asked for sponsorship, but I didn't, and it's too late now. And I'll tell anybody who listens, it's one of the best things I have discovered. It's absolutely the most valuable piece of information, most likely, I think, that you'll take home today. So, you've gone out, you've had this wonderful formative experience, you've met people, you've pushed your own boundaries, your limits, your preconceived notions about yourself, gone or challenged, your preconceived notions about others, shifted, hopefully. Very difficult to travel the world and not start to see things in a different context, not start to put things in a proper context so you start to understand them, because it's the understanding that builds tolerance. But I will tell you what, when you come home, there's something that we don't talk about enough in travel. Coming home can expose you to yourself as one of the most intolerant people in the world. I spent a few days in Tacloban, Philippines, filming that episode. I wanted to go and see what the recovery efforts were like from Typhoon Haiyan and Hanapud from Ruby. I was there just over 2 years after the first hurricane leveled the city. I spent days standing in camps for internally displaced people, watching them. Sorry, this still pisses me off so bad. Watching them get water in barrels and buckets when the water truck showed up once a week. And I come back to LA and I hear people complain about not being able to water their lawn because of a drought. And I just kick them in the shin. And I can't. Because travel is supposed to make me tolerant, right? Well, you come back and sometimes you find out you're less tolerant of the place you live. And that's okay. Because we don't talk about that a lot. It does change you. It does. Now hopefully, and once I got my head back out of my backside about it, I realized there are things that I can help teach people in this country, or things that I can do for myself to help conserve that water that I saw these people standing in lines for hours to get once a week from the truck. So you should, don't just, I had to not just want to hate everybody in LA. I had to want to actually do something about it. I had to turn it into something that was positive, and that's the point of that. Otherwise, boy, you can just sit here and be disgruntled over all kinds of stuff when you see how much people are struggling. For that matter, people are struggling with no plumbing and running water on reservations in Arizona. So it's not just a problem that exists somewhere else that you're lucky enough to get to go see. It affects us right here, but it's something that took me a while to come to terms with. When I come home, I have to spend a few days not wanting to just kick people. And that's rough, and that's something people don't talk to you about enough. So don't be surprised if it happens. It's okay if it happens. If you've connected well and seen good things, it should happen. You should come back and be a little bit snitty about some stuff you see here. And I think that's good, because it can make here better. It can make here better, because understanding is the point of it all. I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. Having a conversation with one person is totally different from you. Doesn't mean on the other side of the world, it could mean in this county. Having that conversation and really listening, not to change the world. It's not, I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm not going to tell you that it's all going to be rosy and it's going to change and it's going to be wonderful. It may not. But two people having that conversation and really connecting will start to change the two people, and those two people can start to change their society, and if enough societies change, then yeah, the world shifts when those happens, and that's a good thing. But it's going to start with you and I, and individuals traveling, and that means maybe leaving the friends and family at home once in a while and really connecting, and staying out of that insulated bubble that you build when you're feeling lovely with someone, because it can be safe. And I have to say, penis all the time. You know, traveling has made me rely more on people than I ever thought. I was a pretty misanthropic sort when I was younger, and I've always been fairly solitary. I didn't really think I needed people the way I do until I started traveling. It's made me far less cynical. It's made me much more sensitive to the issues that are here and that are out there. And I began to look at aspects of some cultures in context. And that explains them. Doesn't mean you'll love it. Doesn't mean you're going to fall in love with everyone and think the world is great. You may not. But you start to understand a person and a place. And it's the understanding that leads to tolerance. Maybe respect if we're lucky. But respect and tolerance are not the same thing. We have to start with the tolerance. So that's why I do it. And I'm happy to answer questions if you have them.
You use travel as a conduit to learn more about what it means to be human and a citizen of this planet. And I was just wondering if you could share an experience or a memory from your travels that renewed your faith in humanity or taught you to be a better human being. And I know like that's a total open-ended, big question. You probably have a lot of answers, but
there are a lot. I mean, Couchsurfing and the people I've met. I also used it in Puerto Rico, and to have total strangers on opposite ends of the planet say, "Come into my home. You know, come eat with me. I will cook for you. We will live together for however many days. You'll see me and my life and my home." That's poignant stuff right there. That's changed. But one of my new favorite story, again, was in Laos. It's a very formative country for me for the second season, apparently. So I'd gotten over my saying penis for 3 or 4 days. I was feeling pretty good about myself. I rented a bicycle. I was in Vung Vieng, which is a total tourist trap. You know, if you want to go experience it, gorgeous landscape, total tourist trap. So I was trying to get out of it. I rented a bicycle. And I knew there were caves all along these karst, these beautiful karst mountain formations that line the river outside Vung Vieng. I take off and I pedal up probably 6 or 7 miles north of the city. And they're often, and the guidebooks will tell you about them, that you can self-guide tours through some of these caves that are fairly shallow. Others can go back on into a mile, and invariably a local will show up to guide you in for a fee. So do that one. You have to use them. You'll die in one of those if you don't. I traveled up. I saw a couple. It was very hot. It was very humid. And I knew I needed to find some lunch and some water. My water bottle was empty. And I'm on my bicycle, and I sailed past this roadside building, tables and chairs out front, packed, people at all of them, locals. Yeah. No foreigners, yay. When that happens, usually in that part of the world, that means restaurants. Packed tables and chairs in front of a thing on the side of the road means food and restaurant, and it's public. I sailed past, and a woman says, "Hello, somebody." I zip up a little while longer, don't find anything. I'm like, all right, I'm going back to that place. I turn around, I wheel in. I am drenched in sweat. I'm covered in dust because I've been climbing through these blasted caves and up half with, craggy rock things. My hair, I'm dripping. I'm in spandex and a tank top, so I wrap my sarong around me to, sort of be respectful. And they're very modest and conservative people, so wrap up, and it just like... And I make the international sign for water. I walk in. I don't see the lady, but another woman about her age. Come to drink? Yes. And I look around, and people are checking me out. There's some kids playing over there, and tables, and a table of men right in front of the building. 2 of them spring up, push me a seat, sit, thank you. And I'm saying, hi, I'm sorry I don't speak Laos. I'm not saying penis anymore. I'm sorry. No problem. They connect. They're like, no, we get it. I notice there are no menus on the tables. I notice that everybody's got food and drinks, but it doesn't look like it's been prepared in a commercial way. Tables are packed. Women are sitting around making packets of food. Oh, okay. And the men, bottle of Lao Lao, rice wine hooch, alcohol is big, pour me a shot. And the heat is extreme, and I take one or two, I'm like, I can't be rude, but I'm gonna vomit if I keep doing this. Somebody sticks a couple little cookies, the sticky rice, in the thing, slide it in front of me. I start eating. And we realize that they're not gonna get much out of me because of the language barrier, so they go inside and somebody rustles up, a young woman who's college age, pretty good English, she's studying in the capital. She's up. She and I start talking. She's studying hospitality. She's doing very well. Her English is respectable. Thank you. I'm trying to be polite. And I look around and I say, I thought maybe this was a restaurant, but what's happening here? What is this? I'm like, is this just a family home? She said, oh, yes. Yeah, no, this is my grandmother home. I mean, this is what we do. The moment she said it, I knew it. The more the word came out of her mouth, she said, this is what we do when someone has died. My grandfather has died.
Oh.
I crashed the Buddhist wake. And they all went, come on in, sit down, have some of our food, have some of our booze, have some of our... They brought the granddaughter out to talk to me. The matriarch who was inside, taking guests and dealing with that, and the altar to the deceased was inside her home. That was their family home. And I show up dripping wet and throw my bike out like, can I have something to drink, please? They showed me their property. Matriarch insisted the granddaughter take me up. They had this hill property that you could see, just these sweeping views. They said, oh, please, I don't think much will show up in the video footage for the episode because she actually said, please take pictures, please do, like, please, we want to show you our land. So she took me on a walk through their property. I didn't take the camera out very much. It felt inappropriate, so I tried to rein it back. The producer in my head is screaming, film everything! But I didn't. It just wasn't the human thing to do at the time. But I did. I completely walked into a 3-day Buddhist wake, and they looked at me like I had always been there and have a seat, and you're one of the family. And when I was done, I went inside and I met the matriarch, and I gave her, take a monetary offering to help with expenses, and she took it and she blessed it and blessed me and went through the ritual that's customary, sent me off with a little bag of food to take with me, and I got on my bike and ran off. That was it. Thank you. I've had a great time.